Hi, you're with Bear Friday, Body Language Analysis, and today we're looking at Anthony Joshua, the unified heavyweight champion of the world. I've been following Anthony Joshua and his career since he was an Olympian. I've seen all his fights and pretty much 80% of his interviews. Today we're looking at Joshua because he's replying to comments made in a recent podcast phone-in video by Thaboxingvoice. Comments made by Deontay Wilder. First, I'd just like to quickly talk about the Thaboxingvoice podcast. They had Eddie Hearn on, and if you don't know, Eddie Hearn is Joshua's promoter. They work closely together. And they did something which I thought was quite underhand. We'll call it cheeky, but to be honest, I thought it was quite underhand. They got Eddie on, they talked to him for a while, and then they surprised him by announcing they had Deontay Wilder on the show as well, and that Eddie and Wilder were going to have to talk in public. They kind of painted Eddie into a bit of a corner here. Let's just quickly take a look at this.
Eddie, what's going on, brother? Thank you for calling in again. That's amazing and definitely kind of you.
You see that guy? He's got a cheeky smile there. He says "kind of you" because he knows it's been arranged and they called him up, but they're gonna pull one on him in a minute.
12 or 18 months. Wilder couldn't lace Joshua's boots.
So he's having a bit of a chat about, he's talking big about Wilder, and then this.
But do you think Deontay Wilder wants this fight so bad, he's willing to take less?
Eddie, let's not assume anymore because sometimes I feel like Big Brother making wish happens for my fans because Deontay Wilder's on the line and ready to answer some questions.
You'll get the fight.
What's up, brother? Everything is going good, man, and thank you.
Okay, so that happened. That happened yesterday. So go and check out the Thaboxingvoice podcast if you want to hear the full interview, how it all went down. And this next video was produced by IFL TV, and I'm using it under fair use. So they've obviously gone straight to Joshua to get the word from the horse's mouth.
This is Kugan Cassius.
Wait, start again.
I don't know.
This is Kugan Cassius.
This is Kugan Cassius.
First of all, it's well worth saying that Kugan has a great rapport with most of the boxers he interviews. So here Anthony is relaxed and Kugan does a good job of putting him at his ease at the start of the interview. They actually talk about the videotapes behind him for a little bit.
Most people did, yeah.
Did they?
VHS, yeah, the differences between DVD and VHS is it's just memory format.
But it's interesting that Kugan managed to relax him and they've had a little bit of rapport and a chat. So Anthony's loosened up for this interview. Here he sums up his performance against Takam and he gives us a nice, honest answer. He's using his hands to talk, he's looking into his memory, he's very, very believable.
I have summed up that performance by is keep calm, stick to my strategy. It'll probably go 10 to 12 rounds, meet him on the inside and get the win convincingly, which I think I won the majority of the rounds, and now I can look to the new year, and that's where I'm at now.
This is where he's addressing the stoppage of Carlos Takam, which many felt came early, and again he gives us a really nice, honest answer.
Is that how you felt the night of the fight? Kind of why people talking about the stoppage?
It's a talking point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a talking point, but I do feel the public were robbed of a knockout, and I feel I was robbed of a knockout. Do you know where I'm coming from? But
he looks into his memory here all the time, looking into his emotional memory. Absolutely great. Checking out his feelings.
Listen, as I said, that the ref has a job to do, so I'm annoyed. Do you know where I'm coming from? I'm annoyed that I didn't knock Takam out.
And that sets the tone for the rest of this interview. He's annoyed, and actually he's telling us here, honestly, he's annoyed he didn't knock Takam out. But I believe he's also annoyed at what's going on with Deontay Wilder, what's been said in that previous interview, the fact he's having to conduct this interview today on the random to address this Deontay Wilder issue. I think he's annoyed in general, and being able to state his annoyance in relation to Carlos Takam, quite honestly, he is honestly annoyed about that failure to knock him out. But it also allows him to express his baseline true emotion for the start of this interview. I'm actually annoyed about what we're talking about, or going to have to talk about today.
And the public were annoyed that they didn't get to see it, so I can understand where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, we're all winners because, as I said, the mindset of people were, so what are your plans for 2018? And I was thinking, I haven't even, you know, finished my fight with Takam.
So let's look at Anthony Joshua talking about Deontay Wilder's recent performance, where he battered an out-of-shape, ring-rusty Bermain Stavern, who rather than improving on his last performance against Wilder, seemed to go backwards.
He blew him out in a round. First of all, were you impressed by Wilder's performance?
Yeah, phenomenal performance.
He says, yeah, phenomenal performance, but actually shakes his head.
Wilder's performance?
Yeah, phenomenal performance.
So he doesn't really think it was that phenomenal of a performance. He licks his lips with a little bit of stress after he says it as well.
Wilder's performance?
Yeah, phenomenal performance.
So now he's looking into his feelings.
Done what he had to do, get the job done, and then he looks forward to next year like myself.
And there was a tiny, I don't know if you caught that, there was a tiny raise of the eyebrows when he said now he looks forward to next year, including myself. He means now he looks forward to fighting me.
Were you impressed by Wilder's performance?
Yeah, phenomenal performance. Done what he had to do, get the job done, and then he looks forward to next year.
See that? Little raise of the eyebrows there.
Year like myself.
Which is reinforcing that point, looking forward to next year.
Fight's over and around. His first thought process is to suggest that you or Eddie Hearn or whoever is ducking.
And here, this is a very serious face, isn't it? It almost looks sad, and I think that's the key. We'll come back to that point in a minute.
And he calls you out straight away, which you kind of probably expected him to say similar things after his win over Stavern, did you?
Not necessarily.
A lot of self-touching there.
Stavern, did you?
Not necessarily.
He's more blinking.
Because,
and that face touching. And now he's constructing what he's going to say next. But it's really interesting to me. This self-touching.
Because.
A lick of the lips. And as he takes his hand away from his face there, you see his expression, which he's trying to hide. We use self-touching to make ourselves literally feel a little bit better. It's self-affirmation. And the first bit of self-touching is for that. But the second bit, where he covers his mouth, actually helps to hide this expression, which is one of sadness, I believe. I think Anthony Joshua, in his own head, in his own mind, has a belief system. And I think he believes in an honour code. And I think that he believes Deontay Wilder has dishonoured that code in the way he's speaking out. Anthony doesn't go around saying negative things about other fighters. He carries himself with composure. And to see his main rival, someone he is inevitably going to fight in the near future, start with these antics already, makes him feel that the magnitude of the fight he may have with Wilder in the future can somehow be devalued by this lack of class. When you compare it to the Klitschko fight, they both carried themselves with honour and composure, and both came out of it looking good. And that was a classic heavyweight fight. I think it's a bit sad that Wilder cannot come up to that level of sportsmanship.
Ducking, you know me, I've been taking challenges since my 15th fight in a...
And also, the ducking issue. It makes him sad to think that after everything he's shown the world, after everything he's done, people are going to come at him with this bullshit about ducking. That's slightly... If you're the kind of person that spent your whole career trying to prove yourself, and then big people in the same industry can make these slurs against you, he's not happy about that. At first, when you're not happy about things, they don't initially make you angry. Anger's born of sadness and resentment. And he doesn't like being called a coward.
Sense that I fought for a world title in my 15th fight? I fought for a world title in my 15th or 16th fight, So that tells you where I'm at in terms of fighting people.
And his body sings with him here. His body moves in tune with what he's saying.
Me and Dylan, it was a fight that he was calling me out. We got the fight cracking.
And now he's getting slightly more agitated. Dillian's been brought up. He brought up Dillian. the interviewer, Coogan, has not brought up Dillian White.
You know, Deontay Wilder wants to call me out, no problem. I've already had a meeting about that, but the difference between me and him is I don't just say what I say to please people, I mean what I say.
And this is looking into his emotional memory again, his feelings.
So I don't do my negotiations in public.
And this is interesting. He takes a pause, he thinks about what he's going to say.
So I don't want to...
And there's that sigh. Oh, we're going to have to say this now. We're going to have to talk about something I don't want to talk about. And you can see it's feelings again, it's emotions. Anthony's got an honour code and he doesn't feel that it's honourable to discuss business in public. Private affairs remain private. It's a respect thing.
I don't do my negotiations in public. I don't do business in public.
I'm assuming you're aware of the podcast conversation that happened last night on the Boxing Voice.
He shakes his head, but there's a slight downward turn to the mouth.
Are you aware of this conversation? So, the Boxing Voice is a podcast in America that...
And if he's not aware, then what's about to... If he is aware, then it's going to stress him because he's going to try and hide the fact that he knows what he's about to talk about. And if he's not aware, then there's stress because he's about to hear something that's going to make him cross.
Your promoter Eddie Hearn was on, Shelley Finkel was on, Deontay Wilder was on, and Tyson Fury came on it as well last night. So just to give you the breakdown of it.
And if I were him, I'd be annoyed that I'm not kept in the loop on this shit, and that when all the other people are having their chat on the boxing podcast, that Anthony's not been invited.
It was around...
a slight look of contempt, maybe?
Shelley Finkel and Deontay Wilder believing that Eddie Hearn had said that...
You can see his breathing has started to... He's breathing more heavily. His chest is moving with his breathing. This is making him angry.
That the deal was offered to them with Dillian White as you part of the package or vice versa.
And he puts his finger up to stop him here. He's had enough. That's actually been winding him up. He has heard the podcast, he knows what it's been said, and the whole concept of these people dragging things out into the public has annoyed him.
The fight offered to them for Dillian White is because Dillian White is, I don't know where he's ranked, but he's ranked with the WBC and wants to fight Deontay Wilder. The same way a lot of people are calling me out, and I look at people seriously. And the difference is about what Dillian and Eddie did. They actually offered him a deal. They didn't say, Deontay, we want to fight you, now offer me a deal.
Gets excited there when he does the portrayal of what they did, where he tries to show you their bad behaviour.
No, they said, Deontay, we want to fight you and this is what we're offering. But this ain't about like dangling carrots. Like
now his speech becomes slightly more disjointed. He's getting angry. He's talking about Dillian White, Deontay Wilder, the things they've said, the way they behave, and it's annoying him. But he's being honest. He's using his non-verbal communication, his arms, his hands. There was a little self-touch there of confidence in himself, but also maybe to hold himself back, a little tap of the chest. Let's not let this boil up into a big rage.
You know, I'm taking it upon myself to...
And a self-touch of the nose. The irritation is starting to build inside him, and he's trying to just soothe himself.
Sit down with my team, strategize what I'm going to do, the options, met Eddie, spoke to Eddie about what I want to do, and now Eddie's gone to America to talk about what we're going to do, and that's the process of how to make a fight.
Let's just skip forward a little bit. He's talking about Dillian White.
I'm not aware of myself being involved in the deal with Dillian White getting a fight for the WBC. Dillian White's one of my rivals. He's not one of my business partners. So any business relations we have happen with fists.
That's interesting, isn't it? He's physically showing you the fists there. Combative. And it's interesting because Anthony Joshua is the world heavyweight champion of boxing. This is a position he feels confident in. Fists up, boxing stance. Obviously he's sat down, but he's replicating the boxing stance where he feels most confident, most in control.
Not in the negotiation room.
And those hand movements there, back and forth with the hands, but held up like blocking actions, because he doesn't really want to talk about his business in public.
So when it comes to myself,
The self-touch again. Hold yourself back, build yourself up, cool yourself down, calm yourself down.
competing with Deontay Wilder, this is a meeting I've had with my team.
There's the hands. Almost like a gate. They drop out of shot, but I'll just rewind it so you can see them. It's almost like a gate, isn't it? It's closed gates on negotiations. They happen behind this closed gate.
My team today, and we found a way to kind of make the.
And then these forward-moving hands is because he's thinking forward into the future. He's moving that timeline along with his hands. Those gates aren't permanent. They're mobile. Negotiations happen. And of course, he's expressing this to the public. So he's letting those gates move forward, allowing you some of this inner knowledge.
These things happen because
it's a sharing motion.
As I said, Deontay Wilder has called me out after his fight, as you said, with Stavern, which I didn't expect because I haven't seen no contract or no offer in place. So now I've had to take it upon myself, you know, my time off to kind of gather my team and make plans to travel to America to discuss negotiations.
And this is why he's annoyed, isn't it? Because this is not what was in the plans. Someone started chatting on a podcast. Someone started winding things up in public. Deontay Wilder has won a fight and immediately started chatting about AJ. Now he's having to come and sit in front of a load of videos and do interviews on a day that he already had planned for other things.
So I can become undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And that's the way business is done.
I think the most important thing we can take from this, Anthony's honour code has been slightly offended. You know, you don't wash your dirty laundry in public. He thinks Deontay Wilder is acting out of turn. He thinks the people on the boxing podcast have acted out of turn, and he's slightly annoyed. And if I was Deontay Wilder, I'd stop it with this messing around, because you don't want to make Anthony Joshua angry. You won't like him when he's angry. If you like the content, click like and subscribe. Suggest other things for me to talk about in the comments below.